Director Sanjay Vijayashekhara was in India on his maiden visit, and he spoke to NDTV on the contribution India can make in shaping the future of the youngest lot of the world, that's the children. Many thanks for speaking with NDTV, Sanjay Vijayashekhara. First of all, I want to ask you the assessment of the UNICEF specifically on education of children and how it has been impacted in after COVID. So 1 year on, what are we seeing?
So firstly, Maha, thank you very much for having talking to me on this, and I'm really privileged and to be with you. So on your question on learning loss due to COVID is a huge concern for UNICEF. Globally, in any case, the kind of quality of education indicators were low even before COVID. But what COVID has really done is it's set us back substantially, and the indicators are that now it's much worse. And across, on average, across the developing world, about 7 in 10 children who are 10 years old cannot read a simple sentence and gauge the meaning. So it is a real crisis, because a lot of investment is going into education, and yet the outcomes are poor. Now, with regards to India, India has conducted a national assessment, a national assessment to look at how and the nature of the learning loss over that period. And what then that has enabled India to do is to put in place a number of measures, both around the foundational learning, the kind of reading, numeracy, the kind of basic building blocks, but also through the new national education policy to put in place measures to make sure that learning addresses better the kind of outcomes that are needed to succeed in life and in employment. So making sure that the learning is improved in terms of the student and the learner being ready for the world of employment. So the assessment was important. Okay. It identified the areas that needed focus, and then there's action is being taken, and we've been privileged to be part of that process.
Sanjay Vijayashekhara, talking about India, this is the year of India's G20 presidency. What are the UNICEF's expectations of taking up the cause of the children, the future of the world at that platform?
Issues that are central for children, young people and women are reflected as a core part of the decisions and declarations and that are part of this G20 summit, and that they are carried forward into subsequent presidencies, and that there is action behind it. So we have worked, and just yesterday I met with the G20 Sherpa, who was very gracious to see us, and again, we put on the table, and I know India's presidency is very keen on putting on the table issues related to health, maternal, newborn child health, with particularly around tangible things that can be done, around digital innovations and how India has leveraged that to achieve results for children around immunization and children's health. So making sure that there's very firm decision-making around that, and then subsequent action. But we also have very strong markers, or working with the presidency to put very strong markers around foundational learning, what we were talking about a bit earlier, that every child should be able to read and write and have basic numeracy at the age of 10, as well as around climate action. For that, we also put forward a very clear kind of concepts and proposals for shock responsive social protection. So social protection schemes that support children and their families to respond, to be resilient to the climate shocks that emerge. So what we hope as UNICEF and expect and are working towards together with the Indian presidency is to make sure that there is a very clear decision-making and action around children as part of the G20, because the G20 together have a huge influence on the future of the world's children.
Sanjay Vijay Shekhar, many thanks for speaking with NDTV. Let's move on now, and finally, let's talk